In terms of transfer stuff, I want to move things forward to one of the big headline rumours, really. It's another one that's really kind of come up on the rails in the last few weeks. And I'm keen for us to play our role in the build-up to a League Cup final as well. If anything we can do to vaguely unsettle a player, and then one of their best players. The player I'm talking about, of course, is Alexander Isak. Fabrizio Romano is quoted as saying, Liverpool will be there for Isak. For them, it will be a busy summer. We will touch on that in the next days. The fee that's being talked around social media, which I think is, I don't know if this has been invented or if there's any sort of like thread to follow back for this one, is 150 million. First and foremost, start with your thoughts on that one.
What, for the price?
Well, yeah, let's start with the price. Yeah. And let's go out from there.
I think I said to Dan maybe a couple of weeks back that, I mean, before a player leaves, it's always talked up the price tag higher and higher than it actually ends up being. Tends to drop a little bit when the actual transfer comes through. So I don't think it'll be that high. Mm-hmm. Be interesting to see what Newcastle think. I don't think a lot depends on their PSR issues, to be honest. You know, last summer for them was, by all accounts, reading some of the stuff that came out from, you know, journalists connected to the Northeast at the time, it sounded, you know, fly by the seat of your pants, desperation stuff. Players were being hawked around left and right, and that's how you end up in a situation where Liverpool are having a discussion about Anthony Gordon.
Yes.
They eventually sell Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minteh for, I think it's 75 million combined. Players who were sort of on the fringes, good players, but, you know, wouldn't necessarily be playing every week for Newcastle. So they saw that as a bit of a win. They didn't have to sell any of their big players, but we're not sure what the state of play is this summer, and it'd be really interesting to keep an eye out for what, you know, the likes of Lee Ryder, you know, my Newcastle equivalent, or Craig Hope at the Daily Mail, you know, those sorts of reporters who are connected to the Northeast, what they're saying about the situation. You're
going to end up in a pitched battle with these guys, I think, over the coming months, because that's unfortunately the way it'll be, that Newcastle will be very keen, I would imagine, to kind of play down, even if it is something that's on the cards. They're going to have to stay firm, because if that's the price that they're looking at, then it serves no purpose whatsoever to have it be known that it's even possible to get the player out of the football club. Exactly,
yeah. So you know, a lot depends on that. If they are sort of the ship is in order and they don't have to do anything, I think they'll be hugely reluctant to let their star striker leave for any amount of money, really. You don't necessarily need it if there aren't any PSR issues. I suppose for the flip side for them, they could think if they bank X amount of money for one player, then they could rebuild in 2 or 3 areas and really push on for the Champions League places next season. So a lot depends on that, I think. There was a piece a couple of weeks back that quoted his salary, and it's nothing that would make Liverpool blink. It's sort of the going rate for the players who come in, for decent numbers. So that wouldn't be an issue, and they would be able to offer him sort of regular Champions League football, which is not necessarily guaranteed at Newcastle. So there are a few things to this that are positive from a Liverpool perspective. A couple of things that make me think that, you know, Newcastle will be able to hold on to him. So it's one to watch. But I mean, there's no doubt for me he would overnight upgrade Liverpool's front line. I think they are crying out for a number 9 now, and it's becoming increasingly obvious as the season's gone on, and something that I've said for a number of months now. So I think that is the first port of call for Liverpool this summer, you know, a striker.
Yeah, let's just circle back to the Newcastle PSR stuff, because they loaned out Lloyd Kelly in January, and I don't even know if that's actually there's an obligation to buy or whatever in that. But speaking to people around Newcastle, there seems to be a thought that was a bit of easing the PSR pressure as much as anything else.
Yeah, because a bit of breathing room.
Well, because you're right, because the last thing they want is to end up in that. I mean, it'll be fascinating in year 2 of this like PSR world, that June period where it went crazy for a couple of weeks, where everyone just like, it was mad PSR trades. You kind of touched upon it. Newcastle's mission will almost be, don't have that be any of their business again, because can you imagine? I mean, if they'd almost had to sell Gordon last year, I know they kind of got away with it in that. I mean, they ended up making Nottingham Forest a better team for what they did. But where would they have been if they'd almost had to sell Gordon? They might not be after prospects. So they'll want to do everything they can, and it's whether they decide to do it in one hit, just take the hit on one of their big players.
Yeah.
People will be after Guimaraes, people will be after Gordon, people will be after Isak. Or have they got enough there to do a bit of canny trading? Looking at their squad, I'm not convinced there is a lot of depth there, so it might have to be a big hit.
Just the one big hit. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's almost made June now with the PSR stuff just as busy as August in a weird way, and sort of historically, June is the month where we all get to relax a bit and take a few weeks holidays. Yeah. I remember in the summer I was going to Chester races for a mate's stag do in early June, and then I get the phone call about Anthony Gordon. Yeah. It's like, this shouldn't be June's issue. All this sort of hair him, scare him, player trading. But it is an interesting point in terms of if they do have a sort of threshold that they need to meet, would they be better off getting it in one bulk fee for one player, or did he spread it around 2 or 3? Because they've got loads of really good players, but I'm not sure they'd be happy to lose too many of them. Mm-hmm. You could sort of make peace with having to lose one if you absolutely had to, and you sort of try and reinvest that how you can, depending on your finances. But yeah, I think Isak is obviously the big one for them, isn't he? And seeing Liverpool's name linked more frequently with him in the last couple of weeks. Yeah,
and it was very much an Arsenal link, earlier on in the season, because that was such an easy one to make. They're desperately crying out for a centre forward. Liverpool are very well stocked in the general attacking areas, but it does feel as though a refresh is on the cards. The one wrinkle that I've seen recently to this one is that there's a little bit of talk of Darwin Nunez might be some sort of make weight in going the other way. And I mean, there'll probably be a ton of people watching going, swapping Darwin Nunez for Alexander Isak, yeah, but if you're Newcastle, this is not like a disrespectful thing, they've seen the best of Darwin Nunez, and they might look at that and say, actually, in terms of what's on the market, you could still command a sizable fee for Isak, and you're only really taking a chunk out of it, and you've at least given yourself a player there, as opposed to having to go fresh. You're then going into the market. Everyone knows you've got £150 million burning a hole in your arse pocket. What are then people charging for centre forward? So it might be. I mean, look, Newcastle would lose out in some regards, because there's no way that Liverpool would want to upgrade Darwin Nunez with Isak. That's not then improving Newcastle. But it could be a situation that gives them a good footing going into the market themselves. Yeah, you're right, and I think there's a world actually where Darwin Nunez does really well for Newcastle. Mm-hmm. They've got a history of sort of big, powerful number 9s that they get behind like few other clubs, and if he's playing every week and the crowd are behind him, there's a player in there undoubtedly. Probably a little bit below the level Liverpool want to be at, and that's no disrespect to Newcastle. Ahead of a big final on Sunday, but Liverpool are trying to win the Champions League. They're going to win the Premier League, by the looks of things. So it's just a different pool, really. So, but they're a team that, in terms of Isak, they're set up to play with a number 9. Yeah. So actually, with Liverpool, I mean, this is an issue they're going to have to face if Liverpool do bring someone like Isak in, that it might require a play style from them. But, I think what you're saying with Darwin Nunez is he could just come in and all of a sudden everything they do is geared towards playing the ball into someone to 100%, score the goal. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously got his faults, Darwin, and we spoke about them at length, really, but he's also got a lot of good qualities that you can build and polish. And okay, Liverpool might be a little bit step too far for him in terms of can he do it every week at a club with those sorts of ambitions, but absolutely no doubt that he could go to someone like Newcastle and be a big player for them. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's as good as Alexander Isak, so Newcastle fans probably would be reluctant to welcome that as a change, even if Liverpool sort of top up with a fee as well. But it does feel like that is a nice sort of compromise, certainly from Liverpool's perspective anyway. Yeah, well, look, in some regards from both, let's talk in hypothetics. If he's being valued at 150 million, and you're right in saying fees, either no one will bite and he won't move at that sort of value, or the valuation will come down. But let's just say it's 150, and let's just say instead it's 100 million plus Darwin Nunez. I don't see that Newcastle come out in my eyes, I think Newcastle come out pretty well from that,
That'd
because
be
this
an
is not
unbelievable deal. Yeah.
Well, this is not like, again, with Nunez. There's goals there. You know, he hasn't really hit the ground this season, but again, different manager, hasn't really worked out for him. He was on an upward trajectory of his career prior to this season, and yeah, as I say, all of a sudden they've then got a guy who can do the bit from the left. He can do the centre forward. You can look at the positives of what he brings, and then they've cleared the PSR issues, and they're not under the same level of pressure to they're not. It's not Callum Wilson now. Is the main man, and you've got to go and find someone better. So could benefit.
Yeah, him. I mean, if you look at his goal returns at Liverpool, he got 15 in his first season. He got 18 last season, and I think he's on 7 now. And okay, this season has been a marked change in style from the manager, and you know that's explains it in part. But the season when he got 18, it should have been a lot closer to 25, given some of the chances he was missing. So there is a player in there who will get you goals if you play to his strengths. And I think, you know, it wouldn't be too much of a stylistic change if Alexander Isak was to leave and Darwin Nunez come in.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. Definitely one to watch. That, you know, you hear rumours sometimes, and sometimes there's a bit too much to them, and you go, well, that's someone's thought too much about making an article or whatever out of that. That one is, I don't know, there's just something about that one that feels like it's got legs to me. And we'll have to see whether it's just a pure interest in Isak or whether there is a
He'd love Newcastle with the fans as well. They'd get behind him and
adore him as well, honestly. I mean, we like Liverpool fan bases love them.
Yeah.
The Nunez chant ringing around St James's Park while we're doing presumably some sort of Isak chant, winning everything. You know, let's hope that certainly is what happens. Hopefully, Anthony Gordon, you know, born and bred red, has got some positive things to say to Isak. You know, selling the Albert Dock to him, quality place to come and hang out with your friends and family. Lovely city, got its own little microclimate because of its position within the country. Never too hot, never too cold. Perfect, Alex. Perfect, and a good team as well that are likely to have some silverware. I just obviously we're gonna go ahead to preview the League Cup final a little bit later on in the show, but I do wonder whether there is a little bit of something where you see it happen to players sometimes, where Liverpool will be playing to win that trophy. If you can do that in front of a player like that,
here's what you can win. I think the scenes as well at Wembley, if Liverpool do win, I think that could have a sway in anyone's mind, really. You know, look, this is what you could be a part of if you choose your next move correctly. So, I wouldn't go as far as say Liverpool need to win it to show Isak that he should be coming, but it's a nice little subplot, isn't it?